Yo, what is up, guys? Fer here, and we are here today to talk about the vice captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Zoro, where we see him during and after the events of Wano, in terms of strength and possible plot points that may happen in Wano Kuni, and I might also tie in Sanji and Luffy into this as well, given that they make the monster trio in the crew, because more than likely they're going to be the only ones that would be able to take on the calamities, your Kaido's commanders. Now, for the most part in the New World, we all know Zoro hasn't really got a challenge yet. His fight with Monet was a wash, and even though she had a Logia, Zoro didn't need Haki to defeat her. He used overwhelming fear to take her out, pretty much treating her like fodder, pretty much. Then you have Pika. For the most part, Pika again was just running away, evading Zoro, and it wasn't really a head-on, man-to-man battle that Zoro was looking for. Now, while Zoro did get help to defeat Pika by having Olympus launch him at the Pika statue, that fight was clearly a low difficulty fight, leaning towards the lower spectrum of mid difficulty, but he was clearly no match for Zoro at that point. And this was also the first time we saw Zoro actually put ornament Haki on his blades, meaning he had to put in some effort in the fight regardless. I feel like Zoro has a hard time against individuals who are tricky in the sense that their powers or how they fight isn't as straightforward, and Pika was one of them. And yeah, for the most part, Zoro hasn't had a real challenge in the New World, and we haven't seen the full extent of his powers, and this applies for Sanji as well. Now, when we get to Wano Kuni, we're not only going to see the full extent of Zoro's abilities, but Zoro will transcend his current level in that very same arc. So this arc in essence would favor Zoro in terms of how much stronger he's gonna get. Now, this applies for all the Straw Hats, but the highlight would definitely be on the monster trio, more so on Sanji and Zoro. And the main reason I'm excluding Luffy is mainly because we've seen the full extent of Luffy's powers, what his limit is, so we know Luffy's capabilities when he arrives at Wano, with the exception of Gear 4, the original version, because during his fight with Cracker we saw the full version. So he has one more form we haven't seen yet, and which is more than likely Luffy's strongest physical form, a heavy hitter, because we're going to be dealing with the calamities here, who are, I guess, the epitome of physical strength in any Yonko's crew. I mean, we're going to be dealing with the strongest creature, Kaido, in this arc, so it makes sense for Luffy to have an all-out, physical form that's stronger than Bondman. But the thing with Sanji and Zoro is that we're not exactly sure how strong they are, and the reason why I think the highlight in strength would be on Sanji and Zoro is because it's a culmination of not knowing how much stronger they are after the time skip and how much stronger they will get during Wano Kuni. On the other hand, we have Luffy. Now, with Luffy, we know he's going to get stronger, but we know his limitations before we get into this arc. So in terms of, growth and power, Zoro and Sanji are going to look really impressive to us as viewers. Now, with the whole concept that was established during, the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, that Haki blooms during extreme conditions of combat, as stated by Rayleigh. Technically, Zoro was the first person to bloom in power in the middle of a fight. Now, during his battle with Mr. One, we know Zoro couldn't cut steel, and that left him unable to defeat Dao's Bones, and we know how extreme that battle was. Zoro was taking lethal damage all throughout the fight from Mr. One, but was still getting back up with all that injuries. It's really a lot similar to the Katakuri versus Luffy, and knowing Zoro's personality and how he's so determined to get stronger, the Zenkai boost that Zoro would get during Wano is going to be devastating. I mean, we have Luffy going up against Kaido, which is a Yonko, so you can imagine how much stronger these guys are going to get after Wano Kuni, and this is going to be huge for Zoro in terms of Haki growth during Wano. And since Zoro specializes in ornament, I could see him getting an advanced version of ornament, and this would tie in with Zoro's fighting style, given that he is a swordsman, and the whole thing behind swordsmen is that they have to cut things up, and we have to remember that we are going to be dealing with different squads of Zoans, ancient, mythical, carnivorous, and Zoans are mostly known for their physicality. Ornament Haki would be the perfect asset necessary to take on these guys, and for the most part, Zoro is known for his heavy physical attacks, so technically everything fits perfectly for Zoro. Now, apart from Haki blooming, there's Zoro's eye as well, and maybe Zoro getting a new sword in Wano Kuni. Now, in terms of what Zoro's eye may be capable of, personally, I think it's related to observation Haki. I made theories like a while ago, like a year ago or so, and I said he's removing a bit of his sight to sort of augment the level of his observation. So in a way, he's sort of training himself. Think of the Luffy and Rayleigh flashback and how Rayleigh restricts Luffy's sight for him to get better at observation. Leaning towards the present sub-sphere of observation, I feel like while Zoro specializes in ornament and Sanji in observation, they aren't really good with the form of Haki they're not specialized in and are working on improving it. On the other side, with Luffy, he's kind of a mix of, he's pretty good at observations, he's pretty good at ornament, given the fact that Rayleigh is his teacher, so it makes sense that he would be proficient in pretty much in all types of Haki. But when it comes down to Sanji and Zoro, I think they're going to be lacking in different areas of Haki. And yeah, I don't think Zoro's eye is related to any demons or like Rinnegan, Sharingan, all those crazy theories. Now they could be right, but I doubt it. Personally, I think it's just a regular eye with a scar running over it. And when it comes out to Zoro getting a new sword, now there's two plot points that could foreshadow things later on. The first is Zoro saying that he wants a fire sword. I think that was when they were going to Dressrosa from Punk Hazard. And the second is Zoro having Shisui, which is Wano's national treasure. Now these two things hint at Zoro potentially obtaining a new sword and maybe losing one during a fight in Wano Kuni, because we know Zoro uses Santoryu, which is a sword technique that requires 3 swords. So him having 4 swords would be kind of pointless unless he wants extras or something. So we know there's going to be some type of conflict in Wano regarding Zoro's swords. Now what I think is going to happen is that Zoro is going to defeat the Shogun, take his sword, and more than likely it's going to be one of the 12 great swords that is on equal status as Mihawk's Yoro. And it makes sense for the strongest samurai in Wano to have a top grade sword like that, which could also be a fire sword. And this could tie in to what he said when he said he wanted a fire sword back then, and this could be his new sword moving forward. But yeah, Zoro, not even just Zoro, but the monster trio in general are going to make massive gains during Wano. I think Luffy would be at least first mate level or above. Post Wano, Zoro would be top commander level, and the same would apply for Sanji. And who knows, maybe Oda expands more on things like the breath of all things, or even Zoro potentially having or unlocking Conqueror's Haki during Wano. So the Straw Hats post Wano are going to be devastating as hell. I think the Admirals are going to have a hard time after Wano Kuni. Let's be honest here. Something else I do want to see from Zoro is, I guess, more skillful swordman techniques, more so than like brute heavy attacks that can cut like an entire mountain off or something like that, but more so pinpoint precise attacks, like having the skill to cut fire like Kinemon. Now don't get me wrong, Zoro is an extremely skilled swordsman, but most of his feats post time skips were simply large scale destructive attacks, which makes it a bit boring and repetitive. I'm pretty sure he has some crazy attacks that doesn't focus on DC that he learned from Mihawk, but he hasn't had the chance to show it yet. And in regards to Zoro having Conqueror's Haki or obtaining Conqueror's Haki during Wano Kuni, that's really plausible given what we've seen throughout the course of the story. Even as a vice captain, Zoro has this stigma where people think he might be the captain of the crew given how strong he is, and the parallels between the Roger Pirates and Straw Hat Pirates is also something we can use to support it. Roger being Luffy, Scopper being Sanji, and Zoro being Rayleigh, who is also someone that has Conqueror's Haki. But the main problem with Zoro having Conqueror's Haki is that why hasn't he awakened it yet? Now Rayleigh did state that everyone has Haki, but some may not even awaken it. This could be the case with Zoro, whereas he has the potential of having Conqueror's Haki, but hasn't had the catalyst that would trigger him to awaken it. Remember, the first time Luffy used Conquerors was during the events of Amazon Lily, when he wanted to save Margaret from getting killed off by Murray Gold. It's the same with Ace. Ace awakened his when Luffy was about to get hurt, and with that it seems that there are triggers necessary to awaken it, and this could be the case with Zoro where he hasn't had any triggers yet, and it could be a late bloomer when it comes down to Conqueror's Haki. And Zoro's end goal is to become the greatest swordsman. In a sense, being the greatest swordsman is like being the king of all swordsmen. And if we take a look at all the world titles there is in One Piece, the most wanted man, the strongest creature, the strongest pirates, the Yonkos, most of these people more than likely have Conqueror's Haki. It's not too much of a stretch to think that the greatest swordsman should have Conqueror's Haki as well. So there is a lot of things to support Zoro having Conquerors, but who knows, maybe if Kuina shows up during Wano, that could be a potential trigger for Zoro. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Where do you guys see Zoro during Wano and after Wano Kuni in terms of power? You think he's gonna get a new sword? Comment down below what you guys think. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more One Piece content in this channel. It is Ferro, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.